Our last monthly banner for Book 7 ends with a double mythic offering of Kvasir and Mythic Gullveig. Not much of a surprise, but the two have gotten slightly upgraded weapons from their main story counterparts, complete with unique new specials. Today we'll talk about our 2 new units and go over the 10 other units on the banner. Returning are a host of other Book 7 characters. First up, let's talk about Kvasir. She is a dark mythic hero that boosts speed. She's still a red mage cavalier, and for stats from the trailer, she has 40 HP, 44 attack, 47 speed, 17 defense, 26 res. A glass cannon for sure, but Kvasir may need to take a hit or two for a kit to work, and she'll be depending on damage reduction to stay alive. For old skills, Kvasir has attack and speed catch 4. She will be able to inflict a penalty via her weapon. Insipid Kvasir is a 14-might tome. It accelerates specials. At start of combat, if Kvasir has more than 25% HP, she gets plus 5 to all stats, inflict speed and res debuffs equal to 15% of her speed at start of combat. It also grants full no follow-up effects, breath type cooldown reduction, and if it's the first round of combat in a turn, then Kvasir gets 70% damage reduction against the foe's first attacks with an S. After combat, if she attacked, inflict the panic status on target and foes within 2 spaces. A lot going on here, but nothing new. The only addition to the original tome is the debuff portion. Kvasir has a way to get plus 6 field buffs, which puts her at 53 speed. If you can get one more speed via merges or dragon flowers, then 54 speed will equate to minus 8 speed and res in combat. She is a very fast unit, and with no follow-up that guarantees a double if she outspeeds, and she only takes 1 hit back as well. That 1 hit will get reduced by 70%, and that includes any brave attacks as well. Kvasir has lots of cooldown reduction, which is very nice for Cavalier, and then Panic Smoke 3 to cause some chaos. Main takeaway is that Kvasir needs that 70% DR to survive. If it gets pierced, she's getting sent back to the Stone Age. Where things get a little more complicated is Kvasir's unique special, Light as Time. High 5 cooldown special that boosts damage by 60% of the foe's attack stat. It also grants no guard passively. To get another effect, Kvasir needs to be initiating. She needs to trigger Light as Time in combat, and she needs to survive. After combat, dance the ally with the highest HP within 2 spaces. This can work on dancers as well. If the danced ally or their pair-up cohort is ranged, then inflict gravity on them. Otherwise, if no one gets danced, grants the Times Gate status to Kvasir. Times Gate lets any allies within 4 spaces warp next to the unit. Basically, Light as Time is Brave Marianne's Requiem Dance, but with a damage portion and at a higher cooldown. Slight differences include Light as Time has to proc in combat, and Kvasir only gravities ranged allies when she dances them. Marianne gravities melee and ranged units. If there is no one to dance, then Kvasir will get Times Gate instead, which is essentially a 4-range guidance effect. Kvasir initiates by moving 3 spaces, then any ally she was next to beforehand will be able to follow up and warp to her. Essentially, if she does not die and procs the special, either someone gets danced or her team can warp in. Pretty scary as a defense mythic. Kvasir has 2 new inheritable skills. One is low speed and res 4. Inflict speed and res debuffs on the foe and neutralize their speed and res field buffs in combat. The debuffs are minus 4 with an extra point for every positive status on the enemy. 4 statuses equates to an extra 4 speed and res debuff for a total of minus 8 maxed out. Tier 4 lows basically do the exact same thing as before with some extra stat debuffing. They are consistent and good at stopping field buffs. They're not bad. The tier 4 just isn't that exciting to me. I don't think minus 1 speed and res is that amazing if the foe is something like Grand Strategy or Rally Spectrum, but I mean, we'll take 1 point, I guess. Last new skill is Incite Attack and Speed. This C skill looks like a tier 4 Rouse offshoot, kind of like Alarm. At start of turn, if number of allies next to unit is 2 or less, grants plus 6 attack and speed field buffs and a new incited status. If the number of allies next to a unit is 1 or less, grant plus 3 attack and speed in combat. Incited is a status that grants bonus stats based on the number of spaces you moved when initiating. It maxes out at plus 3 to all stats when moving 3 or more spaces. Considering Alarm C skills are melee calves only, I would not be surprised if Incite is locked to ranged calves. However, since it only adds extra stats and not Kanto 1, perhaps it will be available for any Cavalier and maybe Infantry too, since Rouse buffs include them as well. At the very least, if you want self-buffing and you don't think highly of the Rouse 4 skills, then Incite looks like a new option. Like Alarm, it's incredibly generous compared to the solo-only condition, and you get bonus stats in combat as well. With the Incited status, this is a potential plus 12 to 2 stats when including all the buffs, and that's coming from 1 skill. Not bad. To summarize, Kvasir is a dark defense mythic that has a lot of offensive firepower. If she outspeeds, she doubles, and if you do not bring no special charging, then Light is time procs on the follow-up attack. After combat, Kvasir dances an ally, or she becomes a guidance warp beacon with 4 range. Despite her good list of offensive perks and her entire base kit just granting more stats, Kvasir has no DR piercing herself. Also, unlike Legendary Veronica, who has Fire Sweep and Desperation effects, Kvasir has to get hit if you want to proc Light is Time on the follow-up attack. If she 2-taps a non-distant counter melee unit, Light is Time does not proc unless you can get 2 cooldown elsewhere. There is some counterplay, which is good. Kvasir hits hard, but any DR piercing counter probably one-shots her, and that's that. Keep in mind, she gets 70% DR on enemy phase 2, so she's not a free kill, which is good for general gameplay. If you want to really utilize Light is Time on a defense team, you may want to go hard on pre-charging, Quicken Pulse, Ostia's Pulse, Pent, Garrick, Lord Askar's Dual Ult, Rally Spectrum, etc. The high base cooldown of this special makes it a lot tougher to abuse. Next up is regular Gullveig, who is an Anima Mythic that boosts speed. Unlike her Brave Ult, the OG is a Colorless Mage Cavalier. From the trailer, her stats are 37 HP, 45 attack, 47 speed, 27 defense, and 18 res. Another glass cannon like Kvasir, but swapping higher defense for lower res. For ult skills, to no surprise, Flared Sparrow is back, and Gullveig will be able to abuse it very well. She also brings defense res Smoke 3 for extra debuffing and Pathfinder to help allies follow up. Caeda's Gullveig has a couple changes from last year. This is a 14 might tome with accelerated specials. If Gullveig initiates or the foe is 1 in 75% HP, grant +5 to all stats and grants bonus attack and speed based on 15% of Gullveig's speed at start of combat. It then gives full no follow-up effects. For player phase only, Gullveig gets 70% DR for 1 hit, restores 7 HP after combat, and still has her Gale Force type extra action. Like Leaf's Norin Zeal, Gullveig inflicts herself with gravity so she can only move 1 space. This effect also does not trigger again for another 2 turns, just like Brave Gullveig. Just to be clear, this means every other turn. A lot of overlap with Kvasir. The debuff portion is turned into attack and speed buffs. Gullveig does not get 70% DR into brave attacks, nor on the enemy phase. She wants to be initiating. High speed with no follow-up means lots of doubles, and they tried to solve one issue I had with Brave Gullveig, which is sustain. Extra actions means more 7 HP's healing after combat chances. That can give Gullveig time to tank another hit with her %DR. Extra actions also means more synergy with Flared Sparrow and the Flame Tile stacking. If you enjoy stacking as combat begins damage, Mythic Gullveig is the ultimate abuser. To help in this endeavor, Gullveig's unique special is Time is Light. 3 cooldown special, boosting damage by 45% of unit speed. Also comes with a passive no guard. If Gullveig initiates and triggers the special, then after combat she gets an extra action and self-inflicts gravity. This can proc once per turn, and it has priority over other similar effects. Namely, it will trigger before Caeda's Gullveig's extra action, and it won't count it as being triggered at that time. So, Gullveig's extra action has always been similar to Leaf's Norin Zeal special, except now it actually is a special itself, and it has a damage portion as well. This isn't exactly the same, since Time is Light has to proc in combat versus Norin Zeal just needs to be in charge at the end. Like Kvasir, it's possible to not trigger Time is Light. No guard means doubling, and taking 1 counterattack procs the special on the follow-up. But if you 2-tap a melee unit, that's not enough. You can bring Heavy Blade to ensure it works, but no special charge can mess that up. Regardless, Gullveig can just use her Tome's extra action and then trigger Time is Light in the second fight. 3 actions in a single turn without help is stepping into Edelgard territory, but this does work every other turn due to the limit on the weapon. There is no turn cooldown on the special, so you can get 2 actions all the time, assuming Time is Light goes off in combat. To further play into as combat begins damage stacking, Gullveig's new inheritable B skill is Occultist's Strike. The symbol is the Poison Strike Snake, so I assume this is the tier 4 Poison Strike B skill. If it is, it's very easy to inherit and you can take Gullveig's whole kit very easily. Anyway, if unit initiates combat, deal 7 damage as combat begins, inflict -4 speed and res on the foe in combat, and deal true damage on hit equal to 20% of the foe's res stat. Excludes AoE specials. To be honest, Occultist's Strike looks pretty dang fun. It's not 10 damage like Poison Strike, but the 7 damage before combat begins, so it can actually contribute to a kill. In addition, you can get extra debuffs and true damage scaling off the foe's res. If this is the tier 4 Poison Strike, Amazing upgrade. Gullveig instantly deals 14 damage every fight, and once she lays down the flame tiles, her extra action attacks on foes on fire will stack to 21 damage. For fun, a Toon Triandra can add another 5 damage. You cannot reduce any of that. Very interested if they limit who can inherit Occultist's Strike. Imagine this on Dual Sanaki, especially if you have other debuffing allies. Let's summarize Mythic Gullveig. Animal defense mythic who generally acts like Brave Gullveig, but on a horse, not really a surprise here. 70% DR for survivability, high attack and speed with no follow-up to mess with slower foes, slaying plus no guard, and generally you need to take a counterattack to proc her damage special. If it activates, you get another action which does stack with her weapon's extra action. This opens up lots of opportunities to stack Flared Sparrow's flame tiles, which can mess up enemy ranged movement. It also means more chances to stack as combat begins damage, with Occultist's Strike being another source. To shore up some of Brave Gullveig's inconsistencies, Mythic has healing after combat, and one of her extra actions does not have a turn cooldown. You don't have Kanto, however, you can just spend one of those extra actions retreating if need be. Additionally, Deep Smoke 3 grants Pathfinder to help ferry allies around and follow up on their attacks. If you want to be annoying, Mythic Gullveig can run Wind or Water Sweep, like Kvasir. 70% DR is great, but if it gets pierced, then you can say goodbye. Only thing is, common mythics don't get extra blessing stats, so if the offense has a super speedy unit tanking, things might fall apart there. Another option would be Savage Blow for stacking splash damage with the flame tiles, would be extra potent if you have other Flared Sparrow type units and are a dancer. As a bonus, Duma is also an animal mythic if you just want more out of combat damage. Considering Gullveig literally won CYL, I would not be surprised if she gets another ult at some point. Flared A-Skill stacking has gotten another tool with Occultist's Strike, and a Toon Triandra is another source of this as combat begins damage. If they add Savage Blow 4, maybe you can have a whole build centered around the mechanic. It is quite brutal if units are taking 14 or 20 plus damage before anything happens, and even if they end up living, what if there's another unit with these same effects? It's very fitting for the theme of time. Eventually, all will wither away. Moving on, we'll be going over the 10 other units on the banner. For this month, red has Kvasir, joined by legendary Yuri and Fawn Byleth. Blue has Nerthuz, legendary Caeda, and Rearmed Eitr. Green has Seidr, Heidr, and legendary Robin. Colorless has Gullveig, Fomortiis, and legendary Guinivere. Kvasir has some pretty good fodder. Low speed and res 4 and Insight attack and speed are both new. Assuming Insight is an offshoot of Rouse attack and speed, you can get that from Hans. Attack and speed catch 3 is now on Zephyr, and low speed and res 4 is just an upgrade if you already ran it. Mainly, this is a nice tier 4 selection for a fast mage or dragon cav. Next up is legendary Yuri, a deadlier red dagger version of his OG self. Yuri's uniqueness comes from Foul Play, which is a 3 range swap. Fighters of Dromi gives Kanto 2 and 3 movement with partial counter to stall this time. It also is an Omni Rain debuff. Yuri can do some wild maneuvers with his trickster tactics. Abyssal Blade adds some combat perks with slaying, stats, offense and no follow-up, true damage on hit with some damage reduction. You can get the adaptive damage, attack and speed Hexblade with Sorcery Blade from Lapis. Seal Speed 4 is pretty rare as well if you need debuffs or guard. Last up is Fallen Byleth. She's a Swordmaster who stands out with her Brave Ult's Divine Pulse special, which grants damage based on speed and reduces the next hit by an unpierceable 75%. Her next attack gets even more damage. To utilize this DR, Captain's Sword has built-in advantage if Byleth outspeeds. It also has Slaying, stats, the full low effect, and 7 HP after combat healing. To be more annoying, it also has built-in Bulwark. To enable Divine Pulse's advantage hits, you got Times Pulse 4 with Close Call, adding Dodge. If you want the Distant Counter upgrade, this is the only unit with Distant attack and speed solo. Generally, if you want Mythic Kvasir, very good time to try. 4 passives only on these units, with Hexblade and Distant attack and speed solo being pretty solid on a lot of fun builds. It's a very good group. Up next, our blue group starts with Mythic Nerthuz. She's a light mythic that boosts speed and is fairly fast herself. She's a blue beast cavalier who gets more stats when running higher cooldown specials like Gale Force. She has accelerated specials and breath type cooldown to charge it, plus full no follow-up effects to utilize her speed. Reminder, Nerthuz does not have the new Beast Cavalier transformation bonus. Now, from her B skill, Nerthuz inflicts speed and defense debuffs, gains 40% DR for 1 hit, and has the empowered counterattack Reflect. If she is solo +1, she also gets no guard and inflicts AoE gravity after combat. to encourage her Gale Force strats. For fodder, she has attack and speed Clash 4 and alarm attack and speed for Kanto from that C slot. Next up is legendary Caeda, who is a speedy lance flyer. Like her husband, Caeda has a Vantage niche via her B skill. She has Perma Vantage if the foe is a Cav or armor unit. It also grants offensive follow-up and a Vantage status after, which will work against all enemy types. Wing Lifted Spear is then effective against Cavs and armors. Caeda gets +5 stats and steals enemy field buffs for herself in combat. She has Kanto 2 for utility. With Distant Storm and Tech and Defense Rain, Caeda tries to cheese Cavs and armors via Vantage. That's a bit rough when they're bringing 70% DR nowadays. Distant Storm is a distant counter upgrade with bonus attack at that cost of recoil damage. It does require base DC, which Caeda also carries. Last up is Rearmed Eitr, who is a Blue Beast Cavalier with lots of speed and no res. Arcane Nihility is our first beast inherited weapon ever, but it's only for beast cows. It has Slaying, +5 stats, Freya's buff stealing mechanic, true damage based on speed, and if you outspeed, you get full no follow. This weapon includes the new Beast Cav transformation bonus. It has a clash mechanic for attack and demons debuffs, and if you move 2 or more spaces, you also get another 30% DR for 1 hit. With Power of Nihility, Eitr gets +9 to all stats, Breath type cooldown, and surges % max HP healing. She also has alarm attack and speed, making this a great group if you want that skill. Eitr is the only unit with Beast Sense 4, which is a shame since you can't get the full skill with Arcane Nihility. It lets the user transform at all times and has Dodge 4's debuffs, Phantom Speed, and DR effects. Not a lot of Arcane Nihility users compared to pretty much every other weapon type out there, but Eitr has some nice fodder, especially alarm attack and speed. If you want help with Gale Force teams in Light Season, Nerthuz can be worth getting. Caeda, funny enough, would have countered our 2 new squishy Mythic Cavaliers because of Vantage, but the massive % DR probably stops that. I mean, you could do Rowdy Spectrum with a legendary layer, but otherwise, may need to see what a remix would offer. Next, the green group sends us back to the start of Book 7 with Mythic Seidr. She was our freebie for the year and is an Astro Mythic that boosts attack. Seidr is a green mage cav with high attack and res. Her tome grants a follow-up denial status to the team. For Seidr, she gets accelerated specials, +5 stats, a free follow-up, and true damage based on res. Future Focused works every odd turn and can end the turn of the closest foe in line with Seidr if she wins a res check. The res check is harder the farther away she is. To help, Stillwater 4 and Chill Attack and Res 3 offer stat advantages. Seidr is still the only unit with this tier 4 chill. Another Book 7 character from this year is Mythic Heidr. She's an Astro Mythic that boosts resistance and is a green infantry mage with high attack and speed. Her tome has accelerated specials, +5 stats, true damage based on attack, and 30% DR for 1 hit. It also has built-in Omni Ruse debuff to go with her unique Go to Serpent assist. This rally type skill grants attack and speed field buffs that will scale with the number of turns passed. Each turn, it grants additional effects, including Kanto 1, Treachery, and Dual Strike. Heidr then gets to move again, and she gains all the same buffs as her ally. Very unique support. Technically, you can run the new Ruse 4 if you really want Schism, but half the skill is going to be wasted. Additionally, you're going to hurt Heidr's own combat potential. Magic No Follow-Up is the tier 4 No Follow-Up with partial DR piercing, and Remote Spirit offers more % DR. Panic Smoke 4 is great for messing with buffs. It's a great selection of skills. You could get all of the prereqs from free units. If you want another support / combat green mage, last up is legendary Robin. Very popular unit this year due to easy grand strategy access, which is basically a unity type effect. Unity stacking can get out of hand, but ploy 4s do counteract this status. Still, it's quite strong, and Robin inflicts debuffs on his own team to utilize it. His A skill has another unity effect to stack with it. Robin can inflict smaller field debuffs with a lot of in-combat debuffs. He also has Slaying and Omni Breaker. Steel Attack 4 is even more debuffing with guard potential. You then got Kanto Control for lockdown support. If you want some supportive mages with combat potential, green is the group to chase. Fodder isn't bad either, especially from Heidr. Last is the Colorless group, which has Mythic Gullveig. For fodder, Flared Sparrow is also found on Brave Gullveig, but still quite rare. Diva Terra Smoke 3 is on 4 other units, and Occultist Strike is brand new. Depending on the prereqs, it's extremely easy to grab all of Gullveig's tier 4 skills. I have a feeling they're gonna lock Occultist Strike to magic only or something else, but if you got a mage cav, you can pick up everything here. Now, joining Gullveig is Mythic Fomortiis, also an anima mythic that boosts speed if you wanted to stack it with Gullveig. With Beast Follow-Up, he gets a follow-up attack and will always transform. As a beast armor unit, this grants distant counter, hence the far save skill. For combat, Ravager has Slaying, Attack and Defense debuffs, Special Fighter, and 80% DR for follow-up attacks. Nightmare gives a fat -10 attack and defense, 30% DR for the first hit, and if the foe is initiating, then after combat, the closest foe within 4 spaces ends their turn immediately. The Demon King is not the strongest savior out there, but if he lives, Nightmare can really mess up your plans. If you wanted to go full defensive like with Hardy Fighter, not transforming means no distant counter, so keep that in mind. Now his Breath type cooldown is also dependent on being transformed, so it is incentivized. Fodder wise, Beast Swallow could be nice for a lot of slower units out there, but it's only going to be on Fomortiis at the moment. Last up is Legendary Guinivere, which I think this is her first rerun. It's been a while. She is a colorless infantry mage with high speed, decent attack and res. Guinivere is one of the few with tome effectiveness. She has Slaying, +5 stats, true damage, and flat DR based on her res stat, guard, and she negates adaptive damage. Burns New Way grants +5 stats, Breath type cooldown, and healing after combat when you're near allies. It also gives allies 7 HP healing after combat when they're fighting. For other skills, Speedrunner's Finish 4 and Nelsie Disrupt 4 are both only on one other unit each. They're quite rare. Nelsie Disrupt 4 is interesting to me, especially since if you use Brave Sorin, you can have a savior that negates sweep skills. Overall, Colorless is not bad if you want to go for Gullveig. General fodder is pretty good here with some interesting units. That will be it for this month's Double Mythic Banner. I just realized the Mythic Battle map is going to absolutely suck. Now, good luck to those summoning, but reminder that next up is Book 8's New Heroes banner, and then we head straight into Christmas and New Year's. I don't think Gullveig's going to be on the New Year's lineup, but perhaps she could be a dual partner, kind of like Embla last year. Maybe it's time to bring back the triple dual hero considering our Book 7 situation. Thank you for watching. I will see you guys in December.